Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Holistic Spiritual Transformation weekly interview podcast sponsored by the Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy. I'm your host, Dr. Beverly, and today we have a very special guest, Anne Gordon. She has been running her successful whale and dolphin wisdom retreats internationally since 2007. Doesn't that sound like fun? Whale and dolphin. She shares the wisdom of the dolphins and whales through transformational retreats to spend time with and deepen your spiritual connection to the natural world. Wow. She is a retreat success coach who loves to share her comprehensive knowledge and experience of leading successful and lucrative retreats in the past 15 years with coaches, healers, and transformational leaders. She is dedicated to empowering you to easily create, fill, and lead the transformational retreats that you have been dreaming of. Wow, welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Beverly. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here. And how exciting. I love whales and dolphins. Tell us about your personal journey. How did you get started with this, and why is this your passion?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was blessed to grow up in the Pacific Northwest. My dad had a boat, and the family went out on most weekends, and every summer vacation was boating in the San Juan Islands. So I literally grew up with the orca whales.
Oh, wow.
So that was really special. And what's interesting is, I grew up as a very shy, insecure kid. But the minute I saw those orcas, it was like nothing else was present in my life. The fears, the shyness, all those insecurities, they just were gone. And it was all the joy and the presence of being with the orcas. And as I look back on it, I realized that whenever the orcas were around, it really felt like the presence of a loving, protective older brother.
Oh,
It was just this beautiful sense of this energy that I got every time I was around them. So, flash forward, I studied biology and animal behavior in university. I worked briefly as a zookeeper. I trained animals for movies and television, and for many years. And then one of those films I worked on took me to Panama, where I worked on a film that hired a local tribe of indigenous peoples as the actors. Now, this tribe, they still live in traditional villages deep in the rainforest. The only way in is by dugout canoe. There's no road, and the river is the road. And I was so touched with how warm and open and loving these people were. And as fate would have it, I not only fell in love with them as a people, but I literally fell in love and married one of them. So as I was there and then I moved down there to be with him after the film was over. And as I was there, I thought, well, this is really great. I'm loving being, part of his family and welcomed into the tribe. And how do I make a living in this country where there was almost no film industry to speak of? And so I realized that they made most of their income by tourism, being proud of sharing their culture and their history with visitors. And they loved having visitors and learning about other people. And so I worked first as a tour guide to the village. And then I realized that I'm in a country with two oceans only 50 miles apart. And I was thinking, where are the dolphins and whales? What species do we have? And how do I get out to see them? And as I was doing that, as I was exploring, and it took a long time, but I found out that it took 2 years, and I discovered that Panama is one of the only places in the world where they get humpback whales from both the northern and the southern hemisphere to breed and give birth.
wow.
And so I literally pioneered the whale watching industry in that country.
Hmm.
But as I was doing the day tours, I mean, I loved it. I love being out on the water and sharing, the biology and the behavior. But, pardon the pun, but I wanted to dive deeper into connection with the dolphins and whales, connection with my clients, and connection with the spiritual aspect of the dolphins and whales and what we could learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when in 2000, I created my signature dolphin and whale retreats. And then from there, I've just expanded my retreats all over the world, where I now go to Mexico for the gray whales. We swim with wild dolphins in the Bahamas, where the picture behind me was taken, where we go to French Polynesia and swim with humpback whales, to Hawaii. And now I'm living back in the US in California, and go back to Panama. We go all over with these powerful, powerful retreats. And so that's been amazing. And now I'm also working as a retreat success coach, because I've been leading my own retreats successfully, profitably for 15 years now. I'm coaching coaches, healers, transformational leaders, how to create, fill, and lead their own transformational retreats successfully and profitably.
That's really great. Can we just back up one little bit?
Of course, there's a lot to talk about in all of that.
Yes, just for the benefit of my audience. Now, I know a lot about orcas. They're sometimes called killer whales, which people
Yep.
misunderstand, and they're not even whales. So maybe you can address that they're actually dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely. Killer whales or orcas are actually the largest member of the dolphin family. They are not technically whales, and but they are. They're called killer whales because they are the apex predator in all of the oceans. But they are not dangerous. There are still people who are afraid of them, which just boggles my mind. But they're just uneducated, that are afraid of them, or think they're aggressive, or they're dangerous, or they will kill you. But here's the thing. They are named killer whales not because they're aggressive or dangerous to humans. In fact, there has never been a recorded attack on a human being ever from a wild orca. Now, the reason they're called killer whales is because they're excellent predators. And some groups of killer whales or orcas, there's different subsets and groups all over the world, and they eat everything. Some only eat salmon and fish, and some only eat sharks and stingrays. Some only eat mammals, including larger whales. So the name killer whale comes from, they are a killer of whales, not whales, assassin whales. They're not that at all.
I didn't even know that. I just knew that some of them eat seals and things like that.
Right. Yeah, no, some groups will hunt gray whales. They've even hunted, it doesn't happen very often, but they'll hunt baby blue whales. They'll hunt humpback whales.
Wow.
Yeah, so they are, like I said, the apex predator. Yet they live in complete harmony and in balance with their environment. They're not killing wantonly. They're eating. They're eating.
Well, thank you for that. So a lot of people attend your very special retreats. So what do you find is their primary struggle in attending your retreats?
I think for me, the people who come on my retreats, one, I have a fun little, term for them, and that is, I call them spiritual dolphin and whale lovers. And those of us who are spiritual, you can all relate. A lot of times when you're deeply spiritual, a lot of times you feel like you don't fit somewhere in the world, right? Where is your group? Where is your community? Who are the people who think like you do? And so that can be really hard in if you're working, say, a corporate job or, in middle America, and finding people who understand and respect you and your belief system can be hard. So sometimes people come on my retreats because they're feeling disconnected. They're feeling lost. They're feeling like they're, kind of wandering around in the world, and they haven't found, I like to use the word pod, right? They haven't found their spirit family. And so on my retreats, there's this instant sense of community, and it's like, oh, this deep breath of, I finally found people who feel and believe and love the dolphins and whales as much as I do. And that what we can learn from them, and that we can connect spiritually, and that we all have a dolphin and whale spirit guide. If you want one, they're there for you. And some people are going to think, oh, who is that? Looney Tunes right there. But, I can't go to the grocery store and casually talk about whale and dolphin spirit guides. But, on the retreat, everybody can get that.
Oh, well, they're both my spirit guides, so you can talk about it with me anytime.
Absolutely. I get that. And that's why we're here. But so that's the kind of people that are like, that come on my retreats.
Cool. That's great. And so you're saying that these retreats are also very transformational. How does that happen?
Well, they are. And I learned that on my very first retreat that I ever led. And it happened in kind of two ways. And that is, I realized that when on a retreat and you're spending time with whales every single day, out on the water, sometimes in the water, I watched and observed my people, even though there was very little, we weren't doing a ton of content. It was just very informal on the boat, and leading guided meditations and group energy healings in the evenings. But I realized and watched how just being immersed in that energy of the whales and the dolphins just beautifully, gently released limiting beliefs and blocks that no longer serve them. And it would be such a soft and gentle release. And now I word it like, my people on these retreats, they don't have to go through this traumatic breakdown to have a powerful breakthrough.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I lead my retreats, is because it's so, just watching that is so beautiful and profound to witness. And then to know that I facilitated that is such a gift to me and a gift to them. And I'm just putting the thing together, and the whales and the dolphins actually do the work. Yeah. And I also realized on my very first retreat, after leading it, I was home. And the next day I felt this wave of sadness come over me. And I'm like, logically, my brain's like, why am I sad? I just had this amazing sold out retreat, and people had a fabulous time, and they're raving about it, and they had these great breakthroughs. Why am I sad? And then I realized what was happening is that while I was leading the retreat, I'm holding space for everybody else. I'm holding it together. I'm keeping it running. So I didn't have time to do my own releasing. But that the whale said, oh, wait, you're not exempt. We're going to work with you too. But I had to do it in my own space where, I could feel, the sadness, let it come up in a beautiful, gentle way so that I could release it and not have to explain what was going on as their retreat leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Heal yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I find that when you've been through it, it also helps others go through whatever they're going through, because you've been there, you understand. And that's so important. So, I was going to ask you, how has this impacted you personally, but it sounds like we just talked about. Do you have anything more to add, how it's impacted you?
Yeah, and what you just commented before at that question was about sharing, when you share from yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share a little story about one. It was the very first time I led a retreat in Bimini, which is a swim with dolphin retreats. It is my largest retreat that I lead every year, and it is 20 people on this retreat. So it's a bigger retreat. And my very first one was sold out with a waiting list, which was awesome. And 3 days before the retreat, I got a call that my mother-in-law, who was a dear friend, I loved her so much. She was more of a friend and a sister than a mother-in-law. And I got a call that she had passed away.
Oh.
And none of us expected it. And I was in the US and she was back in Panama, and I couldn't be there for my husband and his family and to grieve with them. And it was just horrible. In fact, I was at an event, this big show, and I had a booth I was sponsoring, and I had to be on and talking. And I get this phone call. It's like, oh man. And then 3 days later, I had to start leading this retreat.
Oh.
So I get to the retreat and I decided I wasn't going to tell anybody because it's not their deal, right? I'm here for them.
Mm-hmm.
To give them this powerful experience. It's not about me and my sadness. So the retreat started on a Sunday, and Tuesday morning, before we all went out on the boat to be with the dolphins, I had been on the phone with my husband, and it was the day of the funeral.
Oh.
And I just couldn't hold it in anymore. And so on the boat, as we're heading out to find the dolphins, I shared with everybody what was going on for me. And, excuse me, and I shared also that the dolphins had taught me, and one of my favorite aspects of the dolphins is complete transparency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because with the in the world of the dolphins, with their ability to use echolocation or sonar, they literally have X-ray vision. And they can see inside the body, they can see illness, disease, tumors, broken bones, even fetuses. And they can also read your emotional state. Because of course, when we're sad or upset or angry, we hold our body differently than when we're happy and relaxed.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So what that means is, in the world of the dolphins, there is no such thing as a secret or lie. Which is,
I think in the animal kingdom you can say that.
True, but they literally have that X-ray vision to tell it. And yes, all animals are much better at reading body language than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. And yes, it's scary as a human because we all feel like we have some deep down secrets that if we can't tell the world, right? Nobody will love us if they knew that. But I love that aspect of transparency. So I was modeling that transparency, and I taught that lesson in sharing my grief. But I also taught the lesson the dolphins had given me about when you feel these kinds of emotions that are uncomfortable, that we all get,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that when you give yourself permission to dive deep into those emotions, instead of doing the typical human thing, is like, oh no, avoidance, no, go away. I'm going to pretend that doesn't exist, right?
I'm fine, yeah.
Right, I'm fine. And of course, we all know what happens then. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it shows up in some not good way, sometimes even diseases.
Yeah.
Or we, have this outburst that we didn't expect or lash out. And so when you dive deep into your emotions and allow it to flow, it just releases all by itself naturally and really quickly sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I shared all of this with everybody on the boat. And what I didn't realize was there were 2 people on the boat who had lost people in their lives. One was a father, one was a boyfriend. In the last year, they still hadn't dealt with all of their grief, given themselves permission to grieve. So by me expressing my grief for my mother-in-law and her loss, I gave them permission to grieve. So that was super powerful. And then the amazing part was later in the day when we found the dolphins, we found the largest group we'd found all week. We had the most amazing encounter that we had all week. And there was like 40 dolphins, and every single person on the boat had an amazing up close and personal encounter and interaction. And when we got in the water, as a retreat leader, I'm always one of the last in the water because I want all my people to get in first. And so I'm kind of hanging back because I'm still feeling my grief and my sadness and just letting it flow. But I'm feeling really happy for my people. Mm-hmm. And that they're having these amazing encounters. But one dolphin came over to me and is like, oh no, you're not getting out of this. She came over and she literally, just like in that picture, when I took that picture, the dolphin was about, that far away from me. It was, like a foot and a half away from me. It was literally came within a foot of me and made eye contact and then swam circles around me. So I had to like spin around to continue the eye contact. So we're doing these spirals, like 3, 4, 5 spirals until I couldn't help it. And I just burst out laughing, which is hard to do in a snorkel, but I burst out laughing. And then the dolphin stopped, looked at me and took off like, my job here is done. And that is when I realized that sadness and anger and frustration, all of that is a temporary state. But that joy is a permanent state and a choice. Mm-hmm. And you can feel deep joy, as I did with the dolphins, mm-hmm. and feel the sadness at the same time. Mm-hmm. A super powerful lesson, an amazing experience.
And that's all about our vibration and what we send out. Mm-hmm. And we can be sad, but still have a high vibration.
Absolutely.
That's a very powerful story. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's so important to share our feelings because,
yes,
like you said, bottling them up doesn't fix anything.
And it was super healing for those other 2 people that I had no idea were struggling with that.
Well, I believe that everything is in divine order, and somehow those people knew that if they signed up for that retreat, somehow they were going to be healed from it. So
yes,
it all somehow magically works out.
Yep, it does. Totally.
So what can people expect when they go on one of your retreats? What's it like for them?
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's great joy. It's deep connection with the dolphins and the whales. It's deep connection with nature and what they may not go consciously searching for, but what they will find is a deeper connection to themselves.
Do they need to know how to swim?
It depends on the retreat. On my swim with humpback whales trip, yes, you need to be comfortable swimming in the open ocean, at least 100 meters. On my Bimini retreat where we swim with the dolphins, you don't have to be a great swimmer. It helps if you are okay and you can get in the water, but you can have a life jacket on, you can have a floaty, and we have swim guides in the water with you. And on my retreats, I've had people who walk with a cane, who are really weak swimmers, and we take care of them.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to be a super swimmer.
Oh,
now, I also have retreats that are completely boat-based. So I take people over to Mexico, and we go to Baja, San Ignacio Lagoon, where the gray whales go to breed and give birth, and we stay in the boat. But this is the only place in the entire world where any wild animal, much less whales, come up to interact with the humans with no food involved. It's like, yeah, in India, you'll find monkeys that'll come up, but they don't care about you connecting with you. They just want food. They want to steal something. But the gray whales come right up to the boat. You can touch them, you can kiss them, you can massage them and love on them. And the most amazing part is the mother gray whales literally bring their newborn calves to the boat and literally push them up so that you can play, or even park themselves away and say, can you babysit for a while? Let the baby play with us while mom takes a nap. I had it happen many times. And here's the most amazing part about that, is that the gray whales were known as the devilfish when they were hunted by whalers, because they were the only species of whales that regularly fought back. Most whales would just try and flee, but the gray whales would defend themselves.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. And now they're the friendliest whales on Earth. And what's even more powerful is that some of the whales in these lagoons are old enough to remember the whaling. So they have taught me and shared with me that they represent forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because if they can forgive the entire human race and trust you enough to bring you their newborn baby, how can we not forgive ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And embrace that level of forgiveness?
Yeah, I work with a number of people that find it very difficult to forgive, and they just don't understand that forgiveness is about healing yourself.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah.
And
so, and on that retreat, you don't need to know how to swim at all. We just climb in the boat and stay in the boat.
So you don't even need a swimsuit.
No, in fact, it's a little chilly. So we don't, and the water's a little chilly. So, and it's not even that good visibility. So there's no reason to get in the water.
Cool. Okay. So as a retreat leader, you also help other coaches and solopreneurs with their retreats. You want to talk about some of the things you do for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I have learned in my 15 years of leading my own retreats is kind of a success formula on how to create, fill, and lead a retreat where it's can be sold out and you make money on it. And so that's what I teach coaches how to do. And I realize that, I'm not talking about whale and dolphin wisdom retreats. That's my flavor of retreat. You could be leading yoga retreats in Bali. You could be leading Italian cooking retreats or relationship retreats or abundance mastery or whatever your theme is, whatever your gift or aspect is that you bring to the world. I have a system that can help you teach you how to create, fill, and lead your own retreats. And I can show you how you can easily add 6 figures to your business by adding retreats to your business model.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun.
So maybe we can just take a moment. We've covered a little bit of this so far in your talks, but let's talk a little bit deeper about what can we learn from whales and dolphins? Why are they such a special species?
Oh my gosh, I could go on forever. And I've alluded a little bit. We've talked about the transparency, diving deep, the forgiveness. And so let me share with you that dolphins and whales have been on this planet for 30 million years in the same form they are now.
30 million.
30 million. Whereas we humans have been here about 250,000. So we're just this mere blip on the planet compared to their long-term presence. And so they've been living in harmony and balance with the planet for 30 million years. So they've shared with me, the dolphins and whales have shared with me that they look at us humans like toddlers. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense because, and that's why, like, for example, if you see some of the in those movies like The Cove or, the Taiji, not to, bring up that aspect. I don't want to go down that dark road, but when humans are actually hunting and herding and killing dolphins, what's amazing if you watch those films, which I know are hard to do, they don't fight back. Even though they're stronger than the humans, much stronger. They don't bite, they don't thrash their tails, they just want to get away. They don't try and attack. Because they look at us like we look at a 2-year-old. And if your 2-year-old throws a temper tantrum, we don't fight back. Right? We don't get angry because we know that they just don't have the tools to figure things out yet, or how to handle their emotions yet. So the dolphins and whales look at us humans as a species in the same way. We're bumbling along in our lives. We're making a whole lot of mistakes. Sometimes we don't control our emotions very well. But they're here holding space and modeling a whole new way to live in. And the words we use for like in a dolphin pod or a whale pod is unity community.
Oh.
Where what's good for all is good for each individual without losing yourself, your individuality, your unique personality is not lost, but honored and respected.
Wouldn't that be nice if people were like that?
Well, we can be, and that's the vision I hold for all of us, is that we can get to that. Just like the 2-year-old gets to be the adult, we humans as a species can get there too. There's hope.
If we get back to nature, we need to be closer to nature.
If we open up and we get out of our own heads, just like a 2-year-old throws a temper tantrum because they want that candy bar, they want that ice cream, they want that toy, and they think they have to have it, right? And we humans think we have to have, or we're right about everything. Well, you know what? 2-year-old doesn't need that candy bar or the toy, and we are not right about everything. Same thing.
Those are great lessons.
Yeah.
As a shamanic practitioner, I'm into power animals. So talk about whales and dolphins as power animals.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So I'd love to share that the piece about abundance that the whales represent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, whales literally embody abundance. Mm-hmm. They are the largest animals to have ever lived on this planet, bigger than the largest dinosaurs. And many of the whales eat the smallest things, plankton, krill, tiny little things. But do you ever see a skinny whale?
No.
No. So literally they embody abundance. So they're here representing abundance. And so let me share a little story with you, my own personal, kind of anchoring in about this teaching. I had heard that teaching and I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. But one day I was driving up the California coast. It was a time when I was struggling financially. I was driving up the coast and I happened to see some splashing off to my left in the ocean. And oh my gosh, there's whales out there. So I stopped and I watched them for a little bit until they swam off. And then I got back in the car and I was driving. I was by myself. And so, your mind wanders when you're driving. And I kind of forgot about the whales consciously. And I started thinking about abundance. And I realized, and I thought, in nature, abundance is everywhere. The birds just fly around and there's bugs and there's seeds and there's berries. The deer just put their head down and they're eating grass and leaves. The monkeys picking the fruit, the zebras grazing. There's just the lions, there's wildebeest and zebras everywhere. It's just us humans. And then I saw this glass brick wall that we humans put between us and have created this wall between us and the natural state of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remembered this story I had read recently where there were some men, American men, lost in the Amazon jungle for about a week. And then they finally found their way out and they were starving.
In the jungle?
That's exactly where my brain went, because I was living in Panama at the time. And I'm like, and with this tribe of people who live off the land in the jungle where there's food literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, how do you starve in the jungle? But it's just like that brick wall with abundance. If you don't know, it's not there. If you don't open to the possibility that there's food here, I mean, all they had to do was watch the wildlife to see what they were eating. But they didn't, because they had the blinders on that wall of, oh my God, we're not in the city anymore. There's no food, right? And then I remembered, oh yeah, the whales. And thank you, whales. So I finally got it. And what was interesting is at that time, I wasn't doing my whale watching, or I was working freelance as a tour guide for other companies in Panama. And I thought, after that teaching, I thought, well, what if I created my own website, my own company to do tours out to the village? So I got online, I got a really good domain name. I built a website, which I had never done before. And I put it out there. And a week later, I got an email from a guy who said, I want to take your tour. And can I give you a credit card for a deposit? And I had to call a friend. I'm like, how do I take your credit card? And that was the beginning of a very successful business. And then not long after, I started the whale watching and the tours. So here's the next step to that abundance teaching for the whales. Science has actually proven that when there are more whales eating plankton, krill, and fish, there are actually more fish, plankton, and krill in the ocean, not less. Yeah. So that means that the whales not only represent abundance, but they literally create their own abundance just by being whales.
That's important to know about manifestation, because we are that powerful.
Absolutely.
We're just learning that.
Yeah, how do we create what we want in life, in our own lives? Just by being you.
This is amazing. I want to go on one of your retreats.
Yay, I'd love to have you.
So how can people find out, how can they get hold of you and find out about more what you do?
Well, there's so many aspects to what I do. I think if you're interested in creating your own retreats, go to createdreamretreats.com. I've got a free retreat planning guide there waiting for you. So, and it's a kind of step-by-step, takes you through everything you need to know to start creating your own retreat. So createdreamretreats.com.
Cool. So create, C-R-E-A-T-E, dream, D-R-E-A-M, retreats, R-E-T-R-E-A-T-H, createdreamretreats.com. That sounds fantastic. And I understand you also have a special free gift for people. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I would love to let you connect with your own dolphin spirit guide. So I have a guided meditation that you can download and listen to as many times as you want at dolphinspiritguide.com, where you can meet and start working with and open and dive deep into relationship with your own dolphin spirit guide.
That sounds fantastic. So again, that's dolphin, D-O-L-P-H-I-N, spirit, S-P-I-R-I-T, guide, G-U-I-D-E.com, dolphinspiritguide.com. That sounds like a wonderful free gift. Well, Anne, it's been really awesome being with you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You are so welcome. It's been my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. And obviously I love talking about whales and dolphins. I can talk about them forever. And I love talking about the power of retreats and how transformational they are, and love empowering. I consider it spreading the wave of transformation. It's like this powerful ripple effect, because I get it. Not everybody in the world's going to come on a whale and dolphin wisdom retreat. I don't understand why, but I get it. That's, it's not for everybody. But when I empower you to lead your own retreat, whatever your flavor is, it's like I'm empowering you, and then we're spreading that ripple effect of transformation by letting you have that powerful, profound, life-changing effect on your clients.
That's very important. Do you have any closing words you want to share?
I would love to share one last story about the power of retreats. And that is, on my gray whale retreat one year, I had a woman come on this retreat. I didn't know her at all. She was a friend of a friend who had come the previous year. And she participated. She had a good time, but she was a little quiet, a little reserved, until the final sharing circle on the last day of the retreat. She told us that 7 years prior, her husband had been killed in a horrible car accident where not only the husband, but the family dog, the car burst into flames and there was no escape. But the worst part was she was 2 cars behind and saw the whole thing. I can't even imagine the horror of that. And she shared with us that on this retreat, it was the first time in 7 years she felt happy again. That is the power of retreats.
That is awesome. Wow. Well, that's kind of a sad note.
But it's a powerful note in that, that is the transformational power. And that is the possibility of life-changing shift you can have when you go on a retreat or you lead a retreat for your clients.
That is really powerful. Well, thank you so much, Anne. It's been great talking to you.
It's been my pleasure, and I hope to see you on one of my retreats. And if you or the listeners want to go to my website, whalewisdomretreats.com, click on schedule, you'll see all the upcoming retreats.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.